Welcome to Friday. I hope you've had a great week. Now let's dive straight into the question for this week. And the question is, what are some common mistakes leaders make when transitioning from an individual contributor role to a leadership position? Really interesting question. And I'm not going to lie, I chose this because this is my pet area, the area I'm particularly interested in, of understanding how to support individuals, leaders, to transition really successfully from team leader or individual roles into bigger roles. And the reason that's particularly interesting to me is I went through that transition myself and I found it really challenging. There were lots of things about it that were great, and I absolutely loved it, and I loved the team, and I was very lucky. I had an amazing team. But there were times that it was quite challenging as well. And I've learned a lot from that experience, and I've learned a lot from the work that I've been developing in this area as well. There are loads of common mistakes. And I'm sure you'll have examples that you'll be able to share in the comments where you've seen common mistakes or mistakes happening that are really kind of get in the way of people transitioning successfully in their leadership roles. I'm going to share three common ones and three that I think are incredibly impactful, and also how you can maybe try and overcome some of those mistakes as well. Please do share your thoughts on these as well. You know, that's the point of these little snippets, is to start you thinking or to start people sharing their thoughts on these topics. So let's get into mistake number one. So I think the first mistake is not really taking note of the shift, of the change that needs to happen. When you're moving from just doing your own role to now leading a team or leading a department, they are different jobs. They are completely different jobs. And not taking note of that and taking some time to pause and reflect and understand the shift that leader needs to make, or that you need to make as a leader, that is going to bite you quite quickly. And I don't want that to be painful. So taking that opportunity to really take note of what needs to change for you, or what that leader needs to take note of changing, is really important. Get a plan. Start having conversations with people you know will have expectations of you. So your manager, your manager's manager, your team. What are people's expectations of you in this role? And where are you now? And how do you bridge that gap? I've got some resources that I'm really happy to share on how to do some of this stuff. So please get in touch and I'm happy to share that with you. So that's common mistake number one, not really taking note of the shift that needs to happen and the reality of this being a very different job. Common mistake two is not focusing on the people. And that is probably not surprising, especially if you've never had team leadership or people leadership responsibilities before. What you might want to be getting stuck into, and I see this happen, is people get stuck into the tasks, the plans, the strategy, the vision, all those types of things. And those are important, of course they are. But when you're going to need to want to do those things well, you need to make sure you've got the people with you too. So not focusing on the people first isn't going to help. So look at how you build the relationships, how you get some connection with your team, get to know them. They'll give you insight about what's really going on. It'll factor into that first mistake of kind of knowing what's required of you, what's needed of you. And the more quickly you can build those relationships, the easier it is going to be for you to make those transitions and to make the shift into your role successful. So spend time with your team. Be curious with them about them, their career, what's going on for them. Build that connection. This fosters the trust. It creates that space for you then actually to be able to delegate really well and to do all the things that you need to do for that team. Building the relationships will really help you to start developing the trust. And also it will help you to kind of get to know them on a personal level, them as individuals. It will help you to avoid making assumptions about them because you've got so busy with the work. Take time to invest in those relationships. So that's number two, not spending time with the people, not focusing your time on your team. And mistake number 3 is not delegating. Getting stuck in the weeds, getting stuck in the task. And this is very common if you're getting promoted or you're moving up a level within an area that you're technically very competent and very good at, and probably has been a key contributor to you being promoted. There's nothing wrong with that, but you've now got a very different job. You've got a leadership role. We need to, like in point 1, know the shift we've got to make. But that means starting to do things like delegating, not getting involved in doing the task, but creating the environment and creating the experience so the team are doing the tasks really well. So getting stuck in the weeds, getting lost in the weeds because that's where we feel comfortable, when actually we need to step back, build on point 1 and 2 and start delegating and start showing that we're there to support the team to be successful rather than to drag the team along because we're still doing the work. So for me, those are the key common mistakes that leaders will make when they transition to new roles. It happens a lot, and it can be really avoided very quickly by making a plan, building those relationships, getting to know your team, not making assumptions, and not getting stuck in the weeds, making sure the work is going into the right places and not getting drawn into that work because that's where we're comfortable. So I hope you found that useful. Make sure you share in the comments any thoughts you've got on this question. So what do you see the common mistakes are that leaders will make when they're transitioning into a leadership role for the first time or into a bigger leadership role? And I'll see you next week.